How's it going? So I'm going to show you a very quick way how to use constants or object keys as a way to, as aliases for functions, right? Now, on YouTube or on Free Code Camp, you will not get a use case like this, but when you start working, you're going to see this a lot. Like, because you start working with APIs, API come in with specific keys, those specific keys get mapped to accessor functions, and those accessor functions need some kind of value that you need to display maybe in multiple tables, right? So you cannot hard code. You have to create this kind of like reusable code. So I'm going to show you kind of how to do it, right? I don't want to show you the use case because there's like it's sensitive code. So okay. So let me explain it to you first, right? So we have a function that produces a result. We then, the first use case would be to, well, let me just explain to you, right? So we create a variable, assign the function to the variable. When we call the variable, we pass in the argument like this, and then this argument gets transferred into the function automatically. So this effectively becomes an alias for the function. So calling any key is the same as calling multiply. This is just like a middleware or whatever you want to call it, right? Alias, probably, right? Now, it's the same story with objects. So you have an object. Inside the object, you have a key. When you call the key, you pass value into the object. And calling this key is the same as calling multiply 1, and it produces a result. Does that make sense? It's a bit confusing, but like if you just practice it, you'll see how it works. Okay, so let's do from the start. We have function. Let's call it add 1. Okay, so it's gonna be argument. Return arg plus 1. Now, the first case is a constant, right? So we do const any name equals add 1, right? So now let a equals any name. Now remember that any name and add 1 are the same thing, literally the same thing. So calling any name is exactly like calling add 1. And then you pass 10 in here. We should get 11, right? There you go, you see? Alright, so now we're gonna do with an object. So now we're gonna create const my object 1, any key, and then add 1. Okay, so now we're gonna call the object. Let a equals to my object. Now, when you're working with APIs, you will not be able to use a dot notation most of the time, right? Unless you are just like working with the Redux, right? But generally speaking, like you cannot do it, right? So you have to pass it like this. You see, any key. So now this is being called, right? So because any key and add 1 are the same thing, we need to pass a value into it, right? So value is gonna be, well, let's do 10 again so we get 11 so you don't get confused, right? So now let's console log. There you go, it's 11. Okay, in case you're wondering how am I doing this so quickly, I'm using a Ditto. You can get it, like, just Google Ditto, starts with a D. Or you can get any key, or you can get, well, any key you cannot get. You can get this thing here, what is it called? Auto key. Yeah, you can get auto key. But Ditto is good enough. I'll link it in the description below so you can use it, right? Now I'm using Linux, so I have to use any key and copy, but whatever. Anyway, that's the that's it. That's how to do it. Okay, take care. Bye bye.